Oh, good morning. Just wanted to introduce Sarah Knight, which is one of our previously temporary agency workers. Sarah's going to be joining us today just to chat a little bit about her experience through the agency, whether it's sort of some of the positives or some of maybe the disadvantages of agency. Yeah, so Sarah, if you would like to introduce yourself today.
Yes, hi, I'm Sarah Knight. I was previously working for the agency after having 20 years in the health and social care sector.
Brilliant, brilliant. So how did you find yourself, so you started, you said, in health and social care sector, was it 20 years ago you said?
About 20 years ago, yes.
Okay, fantastic. So you've got quite a lot of experience then from sort of start to where you are now.
Yes, I'd like to think so, yeah. And in all sort of avenues of it as well. You know, I've sort of worked right across the sector.
Fantastic, fantastic. So what sort of initially made you want to go into health and social care? You know, what was kind of that main driver that, you know, that thought, you know what, this is kind of my career and this is where I want to sort of end up working then?
Well, I originally started in health and social care, but working with elderly. So I started in a residential nursing home sort of over 20 years ago. It wasn't the best experience to start, if I'm honest, but it also gave me an idea of what I'd like to do, of maybe making a difference. Because what I found is in a lot of places where I first started, you were just there, you just did your job and you left, and that wasn't enough for me. So, you know, I wanted to really pursue the career a lot further than that.
Okay, fantastic. So you mentioned there that you sort of started then with sort of working in elderly care, and then you sort of moved on to other sort of avenues within health and social care sector. Do you mind talking a little bit about sort of what other areas of that sector you sort of moved into?
No, not at all. So from elderly care, I went into working with learning disability and mental health. And I worked for a company for a long time doing this, predominantly working with young adults with autism or some sort of learning disability, you know, perhaps they were Down syndrome. Absolutely fell in love with that side of, you know, the health and social care sector. Definitely wanted to learn more, so I did all my training within that. Then I suppose, you know, with me, I just like to have a little taste of everything. So after working with learning disability, I wanted to work with maybe younger people, not just the young adults. So that's when I decided to maybe sort of step over and start doing some work within schools. But again, okay. I worked then within special education needs because, you know, mainstream wasn't really my forte. I wanted to still keep my skill set there and offer my experience. And what you find often is if you've worked in sort of services and you're dealing with adults or children with learning disabilities or mental health, it sort of crosses over very, very well into the special education needs sector, because sometimes like a teaching assistant might not be able to work within that part of a school because they haven't had the experiences, you know, that you actually find within in the other sector. So they cross over really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, fantastic. Well, it sounds really, you know, rewarding for, you know, supporting, say young adults and then sort of taking that experience into supporting sort of younger children. And yeah, I guess, you know, you're actually right. It's, I guess, once you sort of understand the needs of an individual, whether that's sort of mental health or learning disabilities, then that can sort of cross over, whether that's sort of working with older adults or children then I suppose.
Yes, definitely. And so from there on then I actually, you know, enjoyed working with children so much, but for me the school setting wasn't what I think I wanted to pursue, you know. So I think, you know, perhaps a year into doing that I thought, no, I still want to work with children. So then I think it was sort of around that time I joined the agency, doing mixed work because I'm very flexible, so I enjoy working still with elderly, with learning disability, but I started working quite a bit then in the children's service, you know, in children's residential. And for me, that was really putting my experiences back into it. You know, there was still a part of education there because a lot of the providers, the service providers, actually do education on site. So it was still nice that I had a little bit of that in there as well. But no, you know, actually supporting someone within their own home, whether they're children, whether they're adults, you know, sort of obviously promoting independence, a wider community base, just being part of a family, really, you know. And, you know, I know you're working, but it certainly doesn't feel like work most of the time. You know, there are challenges, of course, especially when you are working with, you know, some young children who perhaps have had, you know, a little bit of disillusioned feelings towards adults. You know, they've been let down perhaps a little bit. But, you know, you come away from there smiling, really feeling that you've made a difference.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, well, yeah, that's where I was going to get to. So then the next point. So, so yeah, you sort of mentioned that you've worked within the sector for quite a while. So, what sort of what sort of made you first sort of reach out to the agency, and this where anyone listening to this, sort of Sarah joined Royal Educare. I think it was back in 2017 when we first opened that year. So you're one of those sort of founding agency staff members, I suppose. So yeah, so what sort of made you think, do you know what, I'm going to again use maybe this experience and kind of take this into an agency workforce?
Okay, well, I suppose foremost flexibility. For me, you know, the flexibility of being able to work around what I could do, rather than having sort of fixed shifts, was one of sort of my main reasons. Secondly, I like to work varied work. Like I said earlier, you know, I love elderly, I love working with children, but, you know, for a while I'd gone where I hadn't worked with learning disabilities for years, and I really missed that. But I didn't want to start applying for jobs within just one area of, you know, within the sector. I wanted to go back through sort of all of them and maybe feel, you know, what I enjoyed the most. And for me, it was, I was actually considering at that time going on, even at my older age, to do further education. And I got family commitments and everything else. So it was just an ideal way of doing it. And, you know, having a little taste back of everything. Now, at the beginning, I did think maybe going into something more permanent, because I know through an agency, if you find something you like, you know, there is maybe a way of going in on a permanent basis. But I realized, no, that wasn't for me. You know, I actually enjoyed being that sort of ad hoc worker. I quite like having a phone call sometimes at 6 o'clock in the morning. Can I go to work? It's quite exciting. You've got no idea where you're going.
Yeah.
You know, you hope Google Maps works, you know, and you've got no idea. But I enjoy going in and meeting different people, meeting, you know, different, whether it's the clients or whether it's actually the staff there. Maybe some people that, you know, find that a little bit uncomfortable, you know, because you're obviously going in really being thrown in the deep end, because you do go on shift and you are expected to know what you're doing, you know, sort of go in there and actually, you know, get stuck in sort of feet first. But I like that. I really love the challenge of that.
Brill. Yeah, I guess you got the best of both worlds. So as sort of like a temporary ad hoc, as you mentioned, an agency worker, you get to experience different places. You get to say meet new people. You know, every client has slightly different sort of, you know, they all have different values and sort of ethos, but their actual operations sort of differ from place to place. And as you said, you get to work then with a variety then of different sort of complex needs, where maybe a permanent is a great advantage, but I suppose it depends what you're looking to do. You know, is it you're looking for, you know, for a place you can sort of start there and career progression, work your way up, you know, maybe with your ladder in one place and you've kind of found this is what I want to do. With agency, you kind of get to feel really, you know, where maybe your skills lie. And what places best suit you and your experiences, and then you can take that maybe to the next level if you decide to, or you can continue having those 6 o'clock in the morning calls, and which you said you enjoy. So you say everyone is completely different, and I guess the flexible agency side of it best suited you, and you know, at the time you said if you were studying as well, it sort of, you know, fitted nicely around your full-time studies.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, you know, and you know, there are some maybe disadvantages of the fact you don't know how much you're going to get paid each month. You know, I was very lucky, I think, because I don't mind working across the sector. I don't mind, working with elderly, with personal care, with children, with mental health. So for me, I always found that at the end of the month, I was having a good wage. But I think for somebody who maybe is a little bit more fussy, when they come into this sort of, with agency work, they have to realize if they haven't got the flexibility, then, maybe they're not going to pick up as many shifts as others. So, but I think if you come in with open eyes and and if there's only one part you want to do, whether that's just learning disability or just mental health, and you only have availability 1 or 2 days a week, things are maybe not always going to sort of come on those days a week. But I think, if you go in with open eyes, and the agency are very transparent with you as well, because there are quieter times of years, as and you start panicking, thinking, it's January, I'm not going to get my hours. But then I think, you do need to sort of think, if I'm going to do agency work, I do really need to have that flexibility to a point. But yes, with studying, I was studying full time, but luckily I was doing a twilight course. So I could fit in, but I'm willing to do evenings, nights, early mornings, and then you will get your hours around it. For other people, I think that I've worked alongside with the agency, they only wanted, the 1 day a week. Again, that was perfect for them, because you don't get that in permanent jobs. Or they maybe wanted to do things where they only worked so many days out of a month because they've got a lot of other commitments. So with agency work, it does really work. If you can tailor it to yourself, it's perfect.
Yeah. No, it sounds great. I think, again, in this day and age as well, people want that sort of family work-life balance and be able to have that bit more flexibility in their life, but do the job that they enjoy doing. And as we all know, health and social care is 24/7, 7 days a week. There is no cut-off point. You can't go home at 5 o'clock and put your feet up and switch off, unless you're not working on that day. But it is, it's a commitment, and you're supporting vulnerable adults or children, so you can't just sort of turn it off like a clock at 5 o'clock. So I guess working as a flexible agency, you kind of get those benefits really, because you can sort of pick and choose your working week and say what best suits you, which is what you've done. So sounds great. So is there, just with yourself, is there like any element of health and social care that you feel your maybe skills lie in? Because I know you've mentioned that you enjoy working, say, learning disabilities, mental health, children services. Is there any way that any of those that you feel this is kind of where my strength lays, though?
Yes, definitely. And I think more so over the last 3 years, because as I said to you, I'm doing further education now, and I've just done a degree in early education, so early childhood education and care. And I think for me, it is back down to learning disabilities. That is definitely where I feel, and that's come out a lot in the 3 years where I've been studying. And I'm quite fortunate now to be going on to do a 4th year, a postgrad sort of teaching qualification. And my teaching hours in that are going to be teaching the health and social care and students the actual learning disability side, whether that's safeguarding or protection, sort of attitudes and values. But I'm also going to be teaching hours in the to the education side with additional learning needs. So again, it's definitely falling into that learning disability, sort of category of it. Yeah. So I think that, by doing the flexible working throughout, I know I enjoy working with learning disability. I know I enjoy sort of doing, children and young persons now rather than older, but I don't mind, I'll work everywhere and anywhere. But that definitely seems to be where my skill set is. And that's come quite apparent in the course I've been doing, where, they've been begging me now to sort of go into the different areas, so give my skills back to new students who will then actually work in the health and social care sector themselves.
Brilliant. It's, it's incredible listening to, say from the start of this conversation, starting out 20 years ago, not really knowing what your future lies in. To kind of having a taster then, I guess, of that sector, and moving into an agency angle where you've sort of supported so many different needs, then to use that to go on to actually now teach that to other to other people in your situation then? So other people maybe considering, you know, students then, you know, maybe people just leaving school, or, you know, people who just want to change of career and they're not sure where they want to go, can now look at studying like a health and social care. And with your background, you've kind of worked your way up through the ranks and now actually use what you've learned to pass on to others for them to make their decisions and kind of what they best suits their skills and experience. It's it's an incredible journey then you've taken from where you started to where you are now. And congratulations as well. You know, obviously you mentioned the degree you finished last year, so well done on that.
Thank you.
So you're doing a FE qualification this year then in hope to teach students health and social care, but really around like the learning disabilities element of it.
Yes, you know, and I'm quite fortunate that my qualification is in childhood studies, but my experience falls in health and social care, so I can actually teach both, you know, which is amazing. But I will definitely, you know, the additional learning needs or learning disability section in the health and social care is where I'm going to actually concentrate my teaching. You know, if you were teaching sort of over 16, you can pretty much sort of teach any element of it. But I think if you've got a passion, you know, that's going to come across a lot more. So, you know, if I'm fortunate enough to get a lecturer's job, you know, the passion behind what I'm doing, I'm hoping will inspire, you know, the students to actually go away and think as well. Because, you know, I've known people who've sort of stepped into learning disability for the first time, and within a few weeks they find it's really not for them. But I think a lot of it is because they didn't understand enough. You know, maybe the company wasn't transparent enough. Again, this is where agency works, because, you know, you can go into it, give it a bit of time and see if it is for you. So I think, you know, it's better to teach things as well for me. I'm going to be opening up their eyes before they actually start looking for a job within the sector, you know, because there's a lot of people who only enjoy working with elderly or only enjoy working with learning disability. And I think sometimes you finish a course and you come out and you're still not quite sure where you want to go. So I am hoping that, you know, I can actually sort of show them whatever direction they want to take with from my experiences.
Brilliant. No, great. It sounds like you've got a good thing going on, and, you know, and a future career there planned up. And I think, yeah, definitely from your past experience now, you can certainly add that value to future generations sort of coming into this field.
But I couldn't have done any of that without doing agency work. You know, to be honest, like, I've been full-time employed since I was 16. I've had a family. I've done sort of random jobs. I worked in factories, I worked in shops, I worked in pubs. But this agency for me opened up the study, you know, and like I said earlier, for other people who might want flexibility within, you know, around their family life, when you've got either a 9-to-5 job, or you've got, in our sector, you don't really have 9 to 5 anyway. You know, you find that whether it's elderly, whether it's learning dis, mental health, children, it's always shift work. But you get a rota maybe for a month at a time. And there's not a lot of flexibility in that, you know, because the company do it, they give it to you, and you've got to work it, the same as any job. But by being with the agency, you know, you can do what you like, do what you enjoy, but still do it around the hours that you need, rather than that sort of strict sort of set rota. And I think, you know, without the agency, I couldn't have gone on to study. And I think for other people, maybe with young families and things like that, it's definitely the way to go now.
Yeah, fantastic. No, that's great. You know, it's great to hear that the agency and that flexibility has been of benefit to yourself, and how you've managed to sort of study and say that other commitments and actually do the job that you love. Is there anything in terms of, you know, temporary, again, anyone maybe listening into this with temporary agency work that you feel could have been a disadvantage? You know, is it anything there? I know you'd mentioned your phone would go off at 6 in the morning, but you might like that.
I think mainly is, you know, you can be very lucky sometimes, and one of the operation managers would ring you and literally have a list of shifts for the next month, and you could pick and choose what you wanted. But then other times, nothing would come in soon enough, you know. So there is that, and then you're actually thinking, you know, I've actually only got 2 shifts now this month. You know, what am I going to do? I say I'm fortunate because I'm flexible that, you know, shifts would come in and I would take them short notice. If you are looking for more set shifts over a month, or you want your hours to know what you're doing, that's perhaps not the kind of work for you then, because that's not always possible.
Yeah.
And secondly, shifts being cancelled. you know, obviously as an agency, you're working as almost like a third party, you know, for a client. And what you find is, you know, they maybe couldn't fill shifts, so they come to the agency. You know, they, again, hopefully the right staff were picked to go, which, because obviously, you know, if I've worked somewhere quite regular, they might ask for me back, which was really nice as well. But then often their own staff would then step in and go, oh, hang on a minute, I didn't realise I can work that day. And I would then get sort of shifts cancelled, and maybe at short notice as well. And then, you know, maybe if you're coming up to the end of sort of cut off the payroll, you start panicking, thinking, oh, you know, I thought I had all these hours and now I haven't. Again, you know, I was always lucky because then I would pick up other shifts. It wasn't a problem for me. Yeah. But for some people that could, you know, cause a problem. It's understandable. It's the way it works. You know, I understand the companies, and I understand that their own staff have to come number one. But then I also think, you know, if you've offered a shift out to somebody else, then maybe you should honour that. And I had a little bit of gripe, you know, sometimes with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, things do happen, and say work is out to an agency, usually because they've, you know, had sickness, or they've got gaps in the rotas for whatever reason. It could be holidays, training days. You know, they may have someone who've maybe handed notice in, they've got like a shortfall for a month until they can bring someone else in. So, but we understand things can change as well. But did you feel from the agency that you always had the support maybe in those times though? So like you'd mentioned that you'd always try and usually other shifts might come in to replace it. You know, how did you feel that was handled then from the agency's perspective in those incidents?
Yeah, absolutely fine. You know, oh, it's gone all echoey. Oh, sorry, there we are, we're back. Absolutely fine. It's I was very lucky, you know, the operational managers are fantastic. And they knew that, you know, for them, it was just important for them to get you the hours. So, you know, if I had a phone call from someone saying, look, Sarah, really sorry, you know, these shifts have been cancelled. Don't worry, we will look to see what else you can do, you know. And at that point then I'd again perhaps say the days I could and couldn't do, so there was no confusion, because I didn't want them to find me shifts and then me turn around and be able to say, you know, I can't do them, because obviously that's not fair either, you know, to the agency or, you know, the operational managers themselves. But, you know, always they would come back to me, they would focus, they would ring around, you know, to see if there was any other shifts going, and they'd get back to me straight away. You know, I was never sort of left in the lurch. If there wasn't much available, they were very honest with me as well, you know, and I much rather transparency, you know, so I know, okay, then if there's nothing I really wanted, which were maybe the shifts within the children's, you know, and the residential side of things, but they'd say, you know, we probably will have some coming in with, you know, elderly care or whatever. And I knew then, okay, I'm probably going to have to take them this time, because otherwise I might not get the hours. But they always gave me all the options and were, you know, completely honest with me. So I think, you know, that two-way communication was really good.
Brill. Okay, lovely. We're sort of coming to the end of this. So is there anything that you would like to, maybe anyone out there listening into this that is possibly considering joining an agency? Is there anything other than everything that you've mentioned? I think you've kind of summarized that most anyway. Is there like one bit of advice that you would give for them to consider when maybe choosing the right agency, or maybe just considering is it that right option for them?
I think open-minded, you know, when you go into an agency, because you're not quite sure of what to expect. So I think you need to go in with an open mind. You also need to go in and know that at the beginning it's not going to be easy. You know, when you're being sent from maybe one place to another, not knowing anyone, not knowing the staff or the clients. So, you know, you've just better go in and think on your feet a little bit. Ask questions, you know, always ask questions, because obviously the agency can't give you all the information that you need, because, you know, a lot of things are confidential. So when you go into your first shift, you're an agency member staff, don't feel like you're going in as an outsider. You're going in as part of that team, whether it's for that day, that week. And, you know, when you're there, ask the questions. It will be appreciated, you know, because, you know, sometimes if you are only in to cover for a day, you could almost feel like a little bit of a spare part, because you may be making up numbers rather than there. But if you go in and say, look, I want to get stuck in, you know, I really want to know, can I have a look at the files? Can I have a look at the risk assessments? Is there anything I really need to know? You all of a sudden then you feel you're part of that team, you know, and you will actually be accepted in, and more often than not asked back. You know, if you sort of go in and you're maybe a little bit shy or a little bit uncertain, I understand some people, you know, are, especially at the beginning, but just try to just show that initiative. You know, if you're quite new at it or you're slightly different than what you've been doing, be honest with them as well, because then you'll find they'll buddy you up with somebody, sort of take you under their wing, and you know, explain everything to you, because you know, it's nothing worse than sort of you feeling a bit outside and them thinking this person's not confident. So yeah, but be open-minded, because at the beginning, you know, it can be a little bit sort of daunting, you know, going into places. The other thing, give yourself plenty of traveling time, because Google Maps, if you has taken me off so many roads to so many little farm lanes and everything else. You know, take a phone number with you, make sure you've got contact details. Maybe if it's not too far away, do a little trial run to see where it is as well, so you're not late turning up on shift. But you know, and be willing to travel a bit, because you know, with the longer shifts, don't think I've just got to stay local. Oh my gosh, you know, it sort of opened up so many avenues for me. I'd work, I sort of live in the Bridgend area, but I work as far as, you know, Caerphilly to well, it was supposed to be Llanelli, but it was more Carmarthenshire. But they're longer shifts, you know, they're absolutely fab. Even if they weren't, you don't mind. You know, I think only once, when I short notice, somebody rang and said, could I go to Abergavenny now? I was like, no, I don't think so. But, you know, more often than not, you know, open your mind up, you know, travel a bit, go to the different places, because it will show you a lot more of what's out there. If you try and keep yourself too local, you might not get those experiences. You know, so yeah, definitely be open-minded and go into it with a flexible thinking.
Brilliant. No, thank you very much for sharing that. And yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there with travel. We do have quite a few, you know, of different services that are kind of based in the middle of nowhere, and you can give postcode and address, and it doesn't take you anywhere near where you should be going. So as always, you know, have that contact details to hand, so you can pull over and make a quick call, and you're usually a few minutes away. But yeah, so yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. Fantastic. Well, I think, yeah, that's sort of all you know, we wanted to sort of share today from the temporary agency workforce. We do have some new things that have recently come into place since you've sort of gone on and you know, your full-time studies. So what we tend to do now is, as well as sort of the whole flexibility, we have a portal where shifts are now allocated into a portal, and we've already matched talent pools to those clients. So if, for example, you come on board and we know your skills lay in, say, mental health, learning disabilities, and elderly care, we would map out our clients based on like your location, based on your skills and experience, and then you'd have the tailored training accordingly to that. So you would be allocated to those clients. As soon as those shifts go into the portal, you'll automatically have an alert saying this shift has gone into the system, you know, please log in, and you know, and you'll kind of all be details of what you need. So it allows you to have a bit more further control now than probably previously. So even though as an agency would ring, and based on your skills and your location and everything else would match that, that's already set up from the day now you start with us. And it allows you to sort of manage those yourself. And again, it's great for flexibility, because where before you had to kind of ensure that availability was always kept on top of, as I know you'd mentioned earlier on, you know, you'd always ensure that if you were on the phone to us, you would just reiterate, oh, you know, I can do this day or that day, so it was always up to date. Now you have the facility to log on and view these shifts that you've been notified. You can, again, almost handpick the ones that you want in line with your own availability, so you can kind of manage that at the same time. So that's we've sort of probably gone on a little bit further now to give those people a bit more flexibility and a bit more, you know, where they feel that, you know, they're kind of handpicking their own workload. So yeah, that's been quite exciting. It's been a development in the pipeline for the last few months, and it is just recently gone live. So I think that's going to hopefully benefit temporary agency work that little bit more.
Definitely. And so I might be coming back you know, if I need hours, you know. Yeah, because obviously I'm looking at hopefully going into something more permanent perhaps next September. But in the meantime, once I know what my studies are, what days I'm, you know, doing work placement, you know, if there's any hours that I need, and again, I know I can do that. I know I can come back if I can only work maybe a Friday and a Sunday afternoon. I know it won't be guaranteed that, you know, those hours are going to come in, but, you know, I know then they could come in. So, you know, it will perhaps help me out over the next few months. So, you know, I may be having a chat with you.
Always welcome back, you know that. So, but yeah, no, really appreciate your time today, and thank you for giving your advice and tips and your experiences. So yes, thank you very much, and well, we no doubt be in contact soon if you may be looking at coming back.
Yeah.
We'll yeah, I'll pop that on the system now to make sure we give you a call to get that arranged then.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you very much.
Okay, no worries. Lovely. Thank you, Sarah. Have a nice day. Okay.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.